You know, they say that dreams are real only as long as they last. Couldn't say the same thing about life.
All the clips from the intro are of me doing different things in Eugene, which is where University of Oregon is located. I'm going to talk about that a little later in the video, but overall I'm mostly just going to talk about specific things to do in Eugene, different departments at the university, and the overall pros and cons of attending, as well as different dorms that are better and worse to stay in, the dining options, when you're on and off campus, and also once you decide to live off campus in your more senior years, sort of what to look for that. If you do end up deciding to attend University of Oregon, you're probably going to go to an introduction session. And the introduction session basically puts you in a group of other students and you tour campus. You can do different activities like go bike around. There's sort of a path by the river that you go on by the urban farm and in just a more outdoorsy space, I'd say. It's really sort of like a park, but a really big park. And I remember thinking that was very cool when I did that bike ride, because just off campus there's this sort of, I'd say, distant, or it just feels like you're really far away from everything and you're in nature. You can go to the urban farm, like I said, which is a farm that's got a bunch of different, it's not like a traditional farm with, a barn and animals and stuff, but it does have natural produce. And it's a pretty cool spot to go check out if you do actually end up attending University of Oregon. And then on top of all that, there is you end up actually staying in the dorms for that portion. So I was staying with a random roommate, and I didn't really ever see him again after that. That was the case for a lot of the people I met at introduction, except for this one guy named Jack that I actually have my organic chemistry lecture with and my biology lecture with. So I ended up kind of, seeing him again after the introduction sophomore year and becoming closer friends with him. But other than that, no one else that I actually met at introduction did I really see again after it. In terms of the specific departments and what campus is like, I'd say there's a few different things to consider when picking dorms to stay in. There's dorms sort of with different pros and cons. So some dorms are smaller than the other ones, but closer to campus. Some dorms are just great dorms, but they're more expensive. So they just are better all around, but the main drawback is the price. Some of them are really far away, you get a little more space, price is lower. So specifically, I'd say Bean is like a medium distance, medium amount of space from everything. That's where I stayed, and honestly, it was kind of small. The dorms were pretty small, but the people in my hall were nice. And there's no cafeteria, or not cafeteria, there's no dining option in the hall. In other dorms like Unthink, there's actually a cafeteria underneath, there's actually like dining options underneath, like on the bottom floor, that you can just go eat there. So I actually have to leave my dorm. But Unthink is really close to Bean, and so is GSH. Bean does have some study spaces and rooms in it that the other dorms don't have, so that's nice. And on top of that, there's also some TVs and spaces that anyone can just go in to do homework. So I really like Bean, but that said, I do like my apartment much better this year because I don't have to share my room with my roommate, and I don't get woken up when his alarm goes off or when he comes back late and opens the door. So it's much nicer living in an apartment than living in the dorms. I'm currently staying in an apartment called Skybox, and I think the apartment's really good so far. They've been pretty good about maintenance stuff, although my roommate, I'd say my roommates are actually better this year than last year because, they're just a lot less disruptive and they're just fun to hang out with. So I'd say they're better this year. But, the apartment does definitely have some drawbacks. There's problems with the laundry machine a lot. There's problems with the dishwasher. It keeps breaking. The lights aren't great. But, that's kind of what you expect in college housing. Let's see. So I guess I could also talk about some things that are actually in the area of Eugene. Like I said at the beginning, all the stuff from the clips in the intro are stuff of me doing in Eugene. And specifically, I did a lot of stuff involving playing music. I'm a music minor, so I can talk about, you know, the music department a little bit. I can talk about, you know, the different areas of the music department, and also the music scene in Eugene. So in Eugene, the music scene is actually really good. There's a bunch of different venues that you can play at. Specifically, there's a place called Max Bar and Nightclub, and there's a blues jam every Tuesday there. It's pretty fun. The crowd is definitely older, so if you end up going, I'd recommend either bring a bunch of friends or just, you know, being prepared to be around a bunch of older people. It's kind of like that at all these jams, but it's still really fun. It's fun to play there. I'd say it's definitely more of a thing to do if you actually play an instrument, if you're gonna go alone. Then there's also a jam at Twisted River in Springfield, which is a more open jam that's not as restricted to blues. It's pretty fun. There's also a thing called Wandering Stool, which is typically on Wednesdays, but occasionally is on other days. It's sort of an open mic with other activities involved. And there's, you know, just people you'll meet by going to these events that have other things going on that are typically music related. So that's pretty fun. And if you're interested in more about the music scene, and you actually do end up attending UO, I make videos about that often, so you can just subscribe and check that out. But anyway, the music department at UO is pretty good, but the building's really old. So the thing about the building is that you can tell that it's just not been renovated. It's not like the new buildings on campus. But that said, the faculty is really good in the jazz department, I'd say. I think they do a really good job, and the graduate student bands are very good. The GEs that run the combos are really good. If you don't know what combos are, that's just sort of smaller group performances. And there's also this thing called the Jazz Station, which has, you know, it's a venue where you can actually play for a live audience that's off campus if you're in the jazz program. So that's really nice. Lastly, I guess I could just talk about sports and the overall environment. The sports games are really fun to go to. Football games are fun. Everyone dresses up, walks across the river. That's pretty common. I'd say pretty well known. And basketball games are cool to go to. The guest tickets are a lot cheaper for the basketball games, and you can get this thing called the Student Duck Pass, which gives you tickets to all of the sports events. Costs you $100 up front, but you get tickets to every single event all year long, and you can buy cheaper guest tickets for other students. So it's definitely worth it, and it makes it easier to afford going to the games. So that's pretty much all. I guess I could just say overall I really like being at University of Oregon, and if you do decide to go, I think you'll probably have a good experience.